art. Whenever people get into the social sector, it's usually from passion, and it becomes very personal to us. So I will start with my journey a little, if that's okay. I was born to quite a privileged family and really had nothing to want for. Studied in boarding school in England, studied film later in Boston, and found myself back here working in the advertising world. But in 2009, I was 29, I was completely jaded by what I was doing in the film industry. And I left it, and Bangalore had been my home for 16 years, joined Parinam Foundation, had no experience in the social sector, but we were helping kids. We were helping kids of Bangalore get educated and kind of graduate, get a job, and change their lives. And kids have always been my passion, so I never really looked back. So lots of film people calling me back, but never even took those calls. This is, I think, a beautiful journey to have. We have two wonderful people who have dedicated their lives to the social journey as well. So I'll start with maybe Dr. Balu. Dr. Balu, you have been inspired by Swami Vivekanand, and I think you also started the youth movement in the 80s, and they've done some amazing work. Would you say he was your first inspiration, when you joined the sector? How do you think he would feel about the work you've done in his name? And how can we use his philosophy to, practice what we do?
To say he's my inspiration, I should say he's my accidental inspiration, to be honest. In 80s, that's the time when the world of computers was coming in. I wanted to be a computer science engineer. And I thought IIT will be welcoming of me, but unfortunately, I didn't realize that I didn't qualify. But later on, I became a professor at IIT Delhi, so you shouldn't qualify to be a professor there. But jokes apart, I just didn't get into engineering. I had a very high percentage, 99.67% in my PCM those days. There were no entrance exams, luckily. So I thought I could walk into any institution. They were called RECs then, not NITs as of today. And they just introduced computer science, and there's only one seat for general merit. And the guy with 100% took it. So I was very disappointed, came down, joined some engineering college in Bangalore, the BMS engineering. I come from Bangalore, by the way. I now live in Delhi for my job, current job. I took BMS college. The first day, I was ragged so badly. I never had the courage to go back to college. And I thought, typical Indian middle-class family, high aspirations. All my siblings are abroad, US and Canada. That's the next step. If you do engineering, like my brother, you take a GRE and go there. Or like my sister, you did ECFMG those days, or now what's called something else. So I went into engineering, got ragged, didn't have the courage. Can't go home because my mother was a homemaker, and homemakers are the most intelligent people, especially mothers. They're doubly qualified. And she would see through me, so I thought I need to do something. So just close to BMS college was the Ramakrishna Ashram. Gates were open, place was beautiful, so I just went in, parked my bicycle. There were no parking problems those days, and walked around. I did this for a week, and I'd come home and tell my mom, it's half-day class, it's just started now. After a week, the monks there started suspecting, this guy is just walking around, they have a lovely fruit orchard. They must have thought that this guy is coming to steal fruits here. So to look very serious and scholastic, I went and sat in their library. I think that was the best accidental decision I ever took. The next 2 months, I read the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. Those days there were 8 volumes, now they become 10. 2 or 3 statements that changed my life. First, I'm 17, I believe every one of us is a socialist at 17. We think we can wave a magic wand, the world will be equal. It is not. It's unequal today. We were talking about venture capitalism, everybody was sitting. You talk of social change, half the crowd disappeared. Right? That's a reality of life. So the one statement was, he said, I do not believe in a God or religion which cannot wipe away the widow's tears or bring a piece of bread to the orphan's mouth. I thought, this is the religion, this is the God I should discover. And the second statement, he said, I call every young man a traitor who, having been educated at people's expense, pays not the least heed to them. All my education are in public institutions. And I thought I need to do something. That was 1982. I come home very inspired. I have a telegram saying, join my, those days telegrams actually existed. The younger lot, it's not an app. Telegram is something else. And we got telegrams. And it said, join Mysore Medical College. I thought that's my destiny. So I really feel that I was chosen. And I just went away. And 84, as a student, I just couldn't hold on anymore. I said, the inequities I saw in healthcare, I thought this can't continue. And my inspiration coming from Vivekananda, I wanted it to be a young movement, only young people. Today, I've laid down office. I was very clear, 25 years into my job, I laid down office, but I'll continue to do what I'm doing. The next generation, the third generation has taken over. Their activities is entire state of Karnataka. We touch 3 million lives. And we live the values that Vivekananda said. He said, Tyaga and Seva should be the national ideals for India. So the Vivekananda Youth Movement's ideals are Ahimsa, Seva, Satya, Tyaga. And we believe that this is what this country desperately needs today. And I've had my journey. And I believe that everything that I've done or can connect to comes from different messages of his in different contexts. I even remember I was a head of the Vivekananda chair of Mysore University. And I took lectures saying Vivekananda the economist, Vivekananda the socialist, Vivekananda the anthropologist, Vivekananda the neurologist. So you can possibly get a vast kind of diverse thinking. And so everything I do, I can connect it to him. A long answer, but you asked the question.
No, I mean, India is such a spiritual world, like country. So like, I think Swami Vivekananda,
Yes, he is.
It's amazing. So, Jack, I hope you're okay with me calling you Jack. Your story is inspirational. I mean, you were born to a family in Singapore who had very little, and your mom taught herself how to be a beautician and looked after you guys. You credit your success to being very poor in studies.
I failed my O level, so I couldn't go to university.
Yeah, and I found, and you're a very, very funny person. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your early years. You also gave up a successful business at the age of 40 to kind of dedicate your life to toilets and shit. So we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I was born at a time, 1959, when Singapore was a very poor country, and we lived the same way as those communities that are poor that I visited nowadays. We don't have a toilet in our house. It's a British bucket system out there with a lot of maggots and flies and every other colors of other people's shit. And we grew up with a very poor family, and my mother has to think how to make ends meet because my father's salary was very low, and she started to think how to be a wedding beautician. She goes to the department store and just sit there, let them demonstrate on her, and then bought a set and test on my sister and declared herself as a professional wedding beautician. She married off 3,000 couples in her career, and she also became a one-stop wedding planner. That means you can book dinners and buy goldsmith and wedding gown and Mercedes-Benz and ribbon flower, everything. She also do matchmaking. So when I was 5 years old, I actually went to MBA school watching her, but I didn't know. And whatever you learn from your parents, it stays very deep. So after I failed school, I became a salesman, and then somebody says, you're such a good salesman, why don't you come out and we invest $100,000 and you go and start a business? So those days, there's no such thing called startup. Startup, they do company to sell share. We don't sell share, we sell products. So I started building materials, and I realized that doing business is so much easier than studying. So we make a lot of money. First year we sold $4 million, and then every year I start one company. So I started 16 companies in 16 years, and everyone is profitable. And the business that I start, I have no idea what is it. Because an entrepreneur don't need to know how to do the business. All you need to know is that there is a need and there is nobody satisfying it. So I always go and look for big problem like shortage of bricks, then I start the brick factory. Clay roof tile is better than concrete roof tile, so I start a clay roof tile factory. There was no Australian international school, so I started an Australian international school with 3,500 students and a 1 kilometer school. And also, we don't use our own money, right? You get investor money, you borrow from bank. So you get investor money 20%, borrow from bank 80%. So always remember, if you want to do business or want to solve social problem, use other people money, other people knowledge. You employ people who are smart and they can run. Other people talent, everything other people. All you have to do is to know that there's a problem, that's all. So you're going to make...
The money is yours, but...
The money is not mine. The money is investor money.
The money you make is yours.
And after they make the money, of course, we get a share, and they also get a share. But at 40 years old, I realized that making more money than you need is a loss-making business. So how come? Because the purpose of making money is to be free from money. You don't want to be a slave. But there's a lot of billionaires who continue to be a slave. They don't need the money, but they need the recognition. So that's another game. But what I found is that if I have enough money, then I have to stop, because selling time, life is 80 years, which is 29,200 days. If I sell each day, my life gets shorter and I die. So if I sell my time, it's because my time is less valuable than money. But after I'm able to pay my bills, my time is priceless. So it's a bad business to sell time to buy money after that. It's a loss-making business, because after you spend 80 years, you're actually dead. And so only thing I want to remind you is that everybody sitting here, you're all going to die. You realize that? And then when you're going to die, well, you take the average male in India, how many days, how many years, and female in India usually 2 years longer. And they enjoy 2 years finally, right? So the thing is that if you have only so much days, then what do you use it? You have to use it for the highest exchange, which is service. So I sold my business, and then I became Mr. Toilet. And over the last 24 years, the World Toilet Organization facilitated toilets for about 2.5 billion people in the world, including 600 million from India, with Prime Minister Modi, Swachh Bharat, but we started way before with Jairam Ramesh, and then later on, we went to Brazil to raise about 14 billion US dollar to privatize their sewage treatment plant, and we also clean up every public toilet in China. So this kind of work, it's very interesting, because I didn't do it. I made them do it. By telling story to the media, and the media then legitimize our work, then the politicians say, if this guy can talk shit and have so much media, then I want to work with him together. So you get Bill Clinton and, Xi Jinping and Modi, and you start to get to work also with movie stars like Akshay Kumar and Deepika Padukone and Vidya Balan. Salman Khan start fundraising for us, and Jay-Z, Coldplay perform in Mumbai, 80,000 free tickets on our World Toilet Day. And our founding day became declared by the UN General Assembly as the official UN World Toilet Day. And we only employ 3 people.
Um, Actually, Salman Khan took his shirt off for Jack to raise money. Did he raise a lot of money for that?
140,000 US. But we
Wow.
didn't plan it. It was impromptu. And we got it. Those people who promised, they stood up, you know, and they are all these big company guys. So the camera were on their face, so they could not renege, you know.
Nice. But in all that Jack said, there's a wonderful documentary that was made about his life. And I say wonderful because not many people know how hard working in the social sector is. You know, a lot of us get these wonderful compliments. You're doing such great work. You're giving back to society, but it actually is quite lonely, frightening, and scary. And I think Jack, in his documentary, Mr. World, number 2 world.
Mr. Toilet, the world's #2 man. It's free on
Yeah.
YouTube. You can watch.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's lovely. And in that, they interview his family, and one of his daughters said something that really stuck with me. It was that Jack travels everywhere because I think Singapore doesn't really have much of a toilet problem anymore. He says that India and China are probably the worst in the world, at least in the documentary. And so he's never at home. He's never with his family. And he's missed out birthdays and a lot of significant moments in their lives. His wife is, I'm an independent woman, I manage, But his daughter said, while it is not okay that he is not at home, he feels like he would like to leave this world knowing that he has contributed, And being a mother of 2 children and knowing that at some point I'm going to have to start traveling again as well, I'm going to have to start being with my beneficiaries, raising funds, that came as something really heartwarming. So thank you. Oh, thank your daughter. Huh?
The trick of living a good life is to be continuously in romance with your wife. Because if you are always in love with her, she will let you be free,
Yeah. He also talks about cuddling with his wife a lot in the documentary, which I thought was really beautiful.
And if you want to know more, you got to go and buy the book.
Yeah. Dr. Balu, as I said, am a mother of 2. My eldest son, Vigyan, is 8 years old. I was brought up by a Goan and Bengali. We spoke English at home. I'm embarrassed to say I have no knowledge of any Indian language. My Hindi is very basic. And was never told to get into politics, I was of the generation actually that also wasn't I think stature, that was not like be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an engineer. It was more like do what you want to do. So I studied film, my brother studied creative writing, my youngest brother studied photography. We all struggled in the arts. But something I'm telling Vigyan is that, and I hope, is that he gets into politics and governance and civil service. And I'm just wondering, how hard is it to do that if you have no background? Is it really corrupt? Is it bureaucratical? And does our Prime Minister would he support someone like Vigyan getting into politics? And what should he do? And what should I do as a parent?
Wow. There's so many questions, and if I finish answering, she has to give you the Nobel Prize for that. Well, I'm not. Let me clarify. It's very funny. Only the last 3.5 years of my life is on the other side of the fence with government. The first 35 years was fighting the government. I have sued them. I've taken them to court. I was part of Team Anna. I was sitting on the streets of Bangalore, Mysore, everywhere fighting corruption. I was 5 years Santosh Hegde's vigilance director in Lokayukta. And I've been extremely harshly critical of government in all my articles, whether it's Deccan Herald or my books. What changed, right? Because I've sued the government. I think we NGOs suffer from this perpetual disease that we are the only change-making agents. And the government is mediocre, it's useless, I can change the world, I wave a magic wand and I can replace government. I started out that way. For 25 years, I believed government is mediocre, inefficient, and should be removed, ruthlessly destroyed. But today I say we can never supplant the government. Non-profit organizations can at best supplement the government if they are sensible. The Prime Minister today talks Samaj Sarkar Bazaar. We have to work together. As much as I sued private sector, I was a very angry young person who believed I'm the only one who knows the truth. Everybody else is wrong, I'm the only one correct. I think we have to change. Social sector has to understand that society belongs to all of us. We all have an obligation, a responsibility. You said passion. For a lot of people, it's also a fashion to be saying I'm part of social sector. Unfortunate. A lot of people write to me and say, oh, I've done everything I can do. I made all the money in this world. Now I want to come into social sector. What makes an MBA kid, after making all his money for 40 years, come into a village and say, I'll be a very good teacher? Teaching is also competence. Mere intention is not enough for social sector. We need talent. We need commitment with competence. And we shouldn't forget that. And so when I was called into government, I was surprised. I got the call from Delhi, and I was asked to join. And my job, and I was very nervous because I'm known to be an activist. And I was very worried, and this is a man who demands 24/7 work. The only two conditions put to me by the Honorable Prime Minister's office. He said the PM says you have to work 24/7, you have to be 7 days a week in Delhi. And so I asked, why me, in one meeting? And he said, well, you understand people, society, citizens. So my mandate is how do you make the government citizen-centric? Jan Bhagidari is not a slogan, at least for the Prime Minister, I can say that much. His conviction in a government which can partner with citizens is complete. And working with him very closely, trying to make the government more citizen-centric is my job. So it's actually what I did in civil society all along. So it's not really a difference for me at all. Here I'm paid for it. I'm treated with respect. I hold a very high rank in government, and it helps reporting to the Prime Minister. So you can get a lot of things done. But our biggest challenge is how do you shift the mindset of 40 million civil servants? The mission is called Mission Karmayogi. The job is from Karmachari to Karmayogi, from a rule-based approach to a role-based approach, where every civil servant feels my role is to work for citizens and to make a bureaucracy future-ready. All are very complex tasks. Now, after getting into government, I realized we have one of the cheapest governments in the world, despite how much ever I criticized it in the past. We have a very efficient government in its own way. And I'm not, today's world, if you talk what you believe in, it can be easily mistaken to be, in a world of polarization, you can be very easily colored. A crayon is only either black or white nowadays. I believe that having written in my earlier book, I the Citizen, criticizing the current government's social policies, today I'm helping craft them. That is the courage of the Prime Minister. That's all I'll say.
I've met some really amazing people from the government, one being you now as well. And I really do have hope for Vigyan.
Oh, I won't answer that part of the question. Yeah. January 12th this year, a launch of a very popular scheme. I know because I wrote the scheme. On the National Youth Day, the Government of India is going to launch a scheme which every year the government is going to spend on 100,000 young people to shape them into politicians without any political ideology of a party. Just make them ethical public politicians. Now, civil servants is another ballgame altogether because they take up the toughest exam in the world. 1.5 million people write the exam, 600 to 700 qualify. And the moment they qualify, they think they conquered Mount Everest. And everything else is just a small hillock for them. And so changing their lives has been quite a journey for me. But I think to be fair to them, the intent to change, the desire to be different, they chose public service. The brightest kids from IITs and IIMs come and do government work now. They chose it because they want to be in public sector and to serve in the public sector. So I believe that it is my job and the commission that I represent, the Capacity Building Commission, to sustain their motivation throughout till they retire, to provide them the means to do their job well, and finally for the political class to provide them the opportunity to post them in the right place, the right man at the right place. Third is not in my hands, the first two are in mine. And if I do a good job, maybe 10 years later, our citizens will feel the impact.
It's so good to hear. Although I'm not sure if Vigyan will be IIT, IIM.
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be?
I didn't go to it.
Yeah, okay, lovely. Jack, there's a lovely poster of you as James Bond. And I think Jack discovered that if you make 007 ulta, it spells out Lou. So, you've really brought humor to a really important and serious problem. And you've really stuck your guns to keeping it humorous, which I find wonderful. And it's not been easy. I think when you first came to India, there's a video of you in the Kumbh Mela, and they weren't very happy with how you brought humor to toilet, and I don't think they thought anyone understood it either. And I think even from internally your organization, the board members gave you quite a difficult time about it. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that experience.
So first, everybody know I have a shit job, right? So I also agree that the fastest way to solve a problem is government policy. You can go by hundreds of millions, you can go by billions level. You cannot solve problem by NGO building 100 toilet here and 200 toilet there. It doesn't work. So NGOs are generally quite inefficient. And therefore, a lot of time they are fundraising and very stressed. So my solution was to tell the story in a very funny way, in a very humorous way, so that everybody listen, because shit, poop, toilet, urine, excreta, nobody want to listen. But if you make it very funny, suddenly they not just listen, they start talking to each other, and then they don't stop. So this movement, we can call it the global bowel movement, if you like, was very successful. And as you know, I didn't go to university. So when I was 59 years old, my mother said, I have 3 kids and nobody went to university. So I said, well, I will go to university. And she said, yeah, you are so old. At that time, I was 52. So I graduated with a Master in Public Policy. And now I would like to volunteer to help you, if possible. Because I understand how to mobilize civil society, media, bureaucrats, politicians. There are 2 different kettle of fish. And the bureaucrats also has a lot of ploys and all that. I also see through it. And the Singapore model is quite efficient. And I think if it's possible, we join forces. And whatever I can do, I work for free, I haven't earned a single salary for 27 years, so you will know that it's genuine.
So I actually thought this panel was till 2, but it's 1:45, so we have to stop now. And, I thank you, Dr. Balu, thank you, Jack, for sharing your stories. Please buy their books, watch the documentary, and
This is the 9th book. The other 8, they got to buy 2.
Yeah, Grassroots is a wonderful book.
Voices from the Grassroots.
Yeah. And my mom, who started Parinam, also worked pro bono. She always said that what she was gaining was gold karma coins. And she also said that if we all look at ourselves, we all are part of social change, inside our homes. And if we do it inside our homes and in our lives, we wouldn't need so many people to dedicate their lives to social change. So I'll leave you with that thought. And thank you again for being part of this panel.